Okay, today we're here with Brenda Smith Lazama. Now, she was a correspondent for Univision, and we're thankful to talk to her today. So, Brenda, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Yes, I just got done filming a television show with Univision, and it was really exciting to be able to use that platform to talk about Afro-Latino issues and pretty much just elevate the voice of that community that hasn't really had representation in Latino media in this country.
So, why do you think that they are overlooked in the media, it was especially the Latino-based media?
I think Afro Latinos is I think that being Afro Latino is something that can be a little bit taboo. A lot of us are not ready to identify with that African connection. A lot of us will use any other word, whether it's costeño, meaning from the coast, or moreno, which is referring to a dark brown skin tone, or jarocho, anything, before we talk about being black. And I think that's something that's really interesting. I actually grew up back and forth between Georgia and Mexico. And in Mexico, in 2016 was the first time that Afro-Mexicans were actually recognized in a national survey. And part of that national survey was talking about what language do you want to use to identify yourselves in your community.
So, we see some people, even that could be darker than me, that say they can be Dominicans, but yet they don't want to be called black. They rather be called, even some of them may want to be associated with white. So why is white like a standard for some people in the Latino community?
I think there are many reasons. I think it's really difficult to pinpoint one thing, but one of the biggest things for people today is, the Eurocentric beauty standards. That's something that is really tough. I live in Mexico. I actually work also as an actress, and it's very common to have different job postings that say we need white people, or to say we do not want any black or indigenous looking people. That's completely commonplace. So just things like that affect your everyday life, not to mention microaggressions, not to mention the fact that many Afro-Latino communities are being completely ignored in their countries in terms of funding, in terms of recognition, in terms of research, that it can be really difficult.
So, do the Afro-Latinos, do you feel that they want to connect with other people throughout the diaspora, or are they just still having this internal struggle on identity?
Well, the first thing that is super important to mention is that Afro-Latinos are certainly not a monolith. It's very different. My experience as an Afro-Latina living in the United States and living in Mexico is going to be completely different than an Afro-Latino living in Colombia, or an Afro-Panamanian, or an Afro-Brazilian. It's just completely different. So I think that that's something that has to be examined on a place-by-place basis. But I can speak from my experience living in Mexico. My Mexican side of the family is actually not black. My Panamanian side is. And I actually went back to Panama this summer for the first time in a while, and I got to see everything from a very different point of view, because obviously Panama is a place where blackness is celebrated, where blackness is it's beautiful, it's something that's appreciated. Whereas in Mexico, Afro-Mexican communities have been so marginalized that they are basically in one of 3 states, and they're in small towns. Most Mexicans have never really seen black people before. So you see the difference from country to country.
So, Brenda, do you think the younger generation of Afro-Latinos, do you think they're seeking more to reach out and branch out?
You know what I think is really interesting about young generation, especially millennials and Gen Z? I think that this whole shift towards reggaeton having such a heavy hip-hop influence is changing the way that we see blackness. Because now that it's cool to listen to reggaeton and hip-hop and all this stuff in our communities, you see people like, for example, Cardi B, who a few years ago didn't identify as Afro-Latina, and now she's saying, no, I'm Afro-Latina. So you see people start to shift their way of thinking, and if music is the way to bridge that gap, or if culture or fashion, if food is the way to do it, I'm just happy that we're able to learn more about our backgrounds, where we come from, and get excited about it.
Okay, well, thank you, Brenda, for joining us. And, where can people get in contact with you if they want to learn more?
So my socials are at Bren Smith Lazama, and my website is brendasmithlazama.com. So I'm always open for the conversation. I'm very much open to continuing dialogue. So feel free to reach out, and I'm here.